Show 36 with Mike DeRoehn of Wisconsin-Platteville. Coach DeRoehn was a great conversation. He has a lot of energy and some awesome takes on the sport, ranging from rally scoring to his out of bounds rules. Also enjoyed his take on Will C. Head on over to Instagram or Twitter and give Wisconsin-Platteville a follow. Coach DeRoehn, how you doing today?
Hey man, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good. I'm glad we could connect today. This is I'm excited. I know you have a lot of unique perspectives and takes on the sport, and you've been involved a while. So quick recap, 30-second. I know you've come from New Hampshire, but now you're in Wisconsin. But a quick recap of your, I guess, coaching tree and how you end up in Wisconsin.
Yeah, well, the very short version would be that my college coaches, Chad Brackey and Dave Carlson, were from Wisconsin Stevens Point, and they were my coaches at Plymouth State University out in New Hampshire. It's a Division III school, and kind of like when I was getting done with school, I was set to be a physical education teacher and think about coaching high school wrestling. And Chad Brackey had actually moved back to Wisconsin. And at that time he had said, hey, I've got an opening for an assistant. There's a teaching position here. I think you should apply. And that's what kind of drew me out to Wisconsin and got me started in coaching. I was only there for a year, but it got me out to Wisconsin and saw like what a great place it is to live. And I've bounced around a little bit over the years here and there, and all part of the coaching journey, I guess I would say. But ultimately, once I came to Wisconsin, I realized like this is where I want to be and really enjoy living out here.
Awesome. So you didn't get your start in wrestling till what, freshman year?
Yeah,
High school?
yeah,
High school,
exactly.
freshman year of high school?
Freshman year of high school.
So did
Yeah.
you think that helped with your learning and development, and instead of starting at a young age, kind of loving the sport and not being turned off? Or I guess walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah. So, I basically started because I had a stepbrother who had been in wrestling, had gotten into wrestling. And so I was kind of following in his footsteps when I saw him compete. And I was like, man, this is cool. And, growing up, as crazy as it sounds, I grew up, as a young kid watching the WWE style wrestling and thinking like that was wrestling. And so then when he got into wrestling in high school, I was like, holy cow, what is this? And learn the rules. But I remember even though I got a late start, like I just remember being hooked right away. And I think in some ways that's kind of what has kind of helped me to stay as fired up about it too, because it hasn't been since I was 5 and where I just kind of hit that stage of like looking to do some other things. But yeah, so I think getting that late start in the sport has been good for me as far as keeping my passionate level up. And like always, I'm still trying to learn all the time, but especially in those first, through high school, through college, like, a lot of times I see as a college coach now, like guys hit that, that freshman year of college, especially when they go from being the high school hero to maybe the college zero type of thing, the guy that's getting beat up and he can't get off the bottom and he never was on bottom in high school because he just took everybody down, and so sometimes you see those guys that just all of a sudden they get in and it's hard. And if they don't have any grit, then all of a sudden they'll find their back door because they're just like, I've been wrestling a long enough time. And it's usually, they never come in and say that either. Like they never, and whenever I get like that text message is, hey coach, can I come in and talk to you? Like, that's always like, oh boy, this could be bad, right? Like, but when they do come in to talk, and usually I do try to deflect that too. When I get those texts nowadays, I say, no, I'm busy, but I'll see you at practice, because I kind of know like what's going to happen. But
that's a good angle. I like that.
They'll come in, but they always like they find that back door as far as like, well, I really got to focus on school. And I'm like, oh, really? Like every guy on our team is doing like really well in school. And actually like at Platteville, for example, our athletic department, the GPA for the entire department for over 20 years has been higher than the general student body. So it's like, all right, so I cross that off. You can't go out there. And they're like, well, I got to work. And I was like, I thought your parents are paying for school. Well, it's just like that kind of stuff. But I just think like, yeah, exactly. And so I think sometimes when you got a guy that has a little bit later start in the sport, it can be really good because they're just, they don't lose the fire. They keep burning. I think that's our job as coaches too, to keep the fire burning, whether a kid started when he was 4 or started when he was 14. It's our job as coaches to, make sure we're providing them with a enjoyable experience and keeping that fire stoked.
Yeah. At what point did you know you wanted to get into coaching? Was there a certain person or a certain impact you had on you?
Um, yeah, my high school coaches were really impactful in my life for sure. A guy named Randy Cleary, he's still the high school coach at Plymouth High School. I had a guy named Cam Sinclair my first 2 years. It was also really amazing coach. Like, he's a Hall of Fame coach, and he was terrific. And then my college coaches, they just had a really a positive influence on my life. And I just, Chad Brackey specifically was really influential for me in college. Dave Carlson was amazing, but Chad and I we kind of connected a little bit more. And, I kind of was one of those guys that when I was getting out of high school, I knew that I wanted to go to college, get a 4-year degree. And then I knew I wanted to keep wrestling it, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then just through, call it divine intervention or whatnot, just to, you kind of start taking some of those classes as you're getting into college, some of those gen ed classes and those activity classes through physical education. And, basically I was like, so you're telling me that I could get paid to play dodgeball and have my summers off? Like, you sign me up, man. You know what I mean?
Right here, right now.
But no, so I pursued physical education. And, it's funny because I only taught for a little while, and I never thought I was going to be a college coach, because it's one of those things where, right or wrong, and I think it's changed more so in recent years, but, so I wasn't an All-American in college. And sometimes, people will make hires because some guy was a national champion, but maybe he doesn't, does he have all the organizational, those skills and all that type of stuff. And so in my head, probably when I was graduating college, it's like, oh man, I could never be a head college coach type of thing. And just, through one way or another, experiences and stuff like that, maybe change that mindset, and maybe just willing to take a risk and throw an application in and that type of stuff. And in a lot of ways, it's funny because even though I'm not a physical education teacher, the things that I learned in that process in terms of just how to put together a curriculum, right? And instead of doing a lesson plan, now I do practice plans and that type of stuff. So it really I'm still basically a physical education teacher. We only teach one unit, and that's wrestling. That's it. We never get to dodgeball or pickleball or anything like that,
Nice. So but you're also talking, you mentioned consistent learning. At what point did you get into the strength and conditioning aspect of this of the sport or at the school? And I guess walk us through that and how you got into that.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm a certified strength and conditioning specialist, and kind of have a duty here where I work with some athletes from other sports in the weight room. And, obviously, like all wrestlers, you're in the weight room a lot and your coaches are putting you through stuff. But I had a 4-year stint at Lakeland University where I coached, and really a terrific place there, terrific people there. But it's a very, very small school in Division III, maybe like 700-800 students. And they really didn't have a strength and conditioning coach there. And so one day the athletic director brought me in and say, hey, we need somebody. Would you have any interest in going to get certified? And, I was like, oh, cool. So that will allow me to work with like my athletes out of season 2 then. And she's like, well, yeah, you got to be training all the athletes, but I was like, yeah, sign me up. And so just kind of dove in head first there, and pursued the certification as a strength coach, and have really grown. That's a constant thing of learning. Actually, to maintain your certification, you have to have like 6 credits of continuing education every 2 years. So just you're constantly learning that way. But that's kind of how I got started. Was the athletic director at Lakeland had asked me to do that. And again, it's like that's that divine intervention again, because when this job at Platteville opened up, it was posted as head wrestling coach / assistant strength and conditioning coach. And if I had never landed at Lakeland, I never would have landed the become certified, and then I wouldn't have been able to be here, which has been really a blessing to coach at UW-Platteville and stuff. And so it's something that I really enjoy, man. Like it's also helped to kind of like reframe my perspective on like, yeah, sometimes as a wrestling coach or wrestlers, everybody's talking about how hard wrestlers work, and we do, right? Like that's part of the sport. Like it's the toughest sport out there. But the training aspect of it and stuff, but it's really opened my eyes over the years to how hard the other athletes are working too, because I've worked with women's soccer, women's volleyball, softball, men's soccer, all these different athletes. Track athletes right now is kind of what the group that I'm working with. And it doesn't matter if it's men or women, like these are motivated people, man, and they're getting after it. And it's really fun when you get a group of motivated athletes to see them just apply like consistent quality work in the weight room, and you see that, and then they get fired up because they're hitting some new PRs as far as how much weight they're moving, and then they can also see it like where it transfers to them and into their sport and their performance there. So then it like increases the buy-in. So it's just cool. And I've had that when I coached at Lakeland. One of the things that we had to do there kind of out of necessity was really train athletes from different sports together at the same time. And like I had my wrestlers at the time being like, like, man, those women's basketball players are really working hard in there. And I'm like, yeah, dude, step your game up, like pick it up, man. Cause that girl is outworking you. But no, it's just, it was cool to have my wrestlers to see, and increases that respect. And I think when you get student athletes training together like that and seeing, how that hard work go into play, then there's a level of respect that increases and some camaraderie then within the athletic department. And they're going to be more willing to get out and support each other at their home events and that type of stuff. So that's been really good, man.
Yeah, that has to be huge, just that camaraderie, seeing each other, putting the hard work in and then seeing it pay off on the mat, court, whatever it may be, and kind of that extra motivation. That's pretty cool.
I
there
think
can't be many people that are coaches and hold that. Do you know any others that are strength and conditioning and a coach? Do you know any others?
Well, ironically, my full-time assistant, Dan Olson, he's also a CSCS, but it's funny because, and he's the only other one I know. And I guess I say that because, a few times over the years, I've had to post my assistant position, and it's always been posted as a assistant wrestling coach / strength and conditioning coach, and trying to, I have never had a guy apply who's a qualified wrestling coach and a CSCS, a qualified
one or the other, probably.
Yeah, it's been some really good, great wrestlers, coaches, whatever, but and they might have like a bachelor's degree in exercise science, but truly not a certified coach. So that's where we've been able to work that. Like Dan, he was a couple-time All-American at Wheaton College for Jim Grunwald there, and he had like an applied health science degree, and he was a certified personal trainer, and was actually preparing for the CSCS. And so the timing was just right where it kind of came together, and he got that CSCS right as he was getting here, and it all kind of worked out. But yeah, it's a pretty rare combination to find someone who's, truly, like, when I say qualified, I'm not saying like people that don't know what they're doing, but just, can actually meet the preferred qualifications and certified on a job application.
Right. Wow. So you have not only one, you have two coaches with holding that certification.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, it just goes a long way too when your athletes know that, okay, they're certified. It's not, the coach putting it, plan together or whatever it may be. Being a D3 school, having two coaches, certified strength and conditioning, what are other aspects that set you guys apart?
At UW-Platteville, you mean?
Yeah. Sorry. Yes. What sets you guys apart? Obviously, at the D3 level, it's, a lot of people think, oh, I got to go here or there. And, but, D3, I think it's, you're still an NCAA athlete, which is no small feat. But I guess, what's your pitch to an athlete walking on, hey, what sets you guys apart?
Yeah. Well, to speak to the, like you're saying that you're still an NCAA athlete, the NCAA puts out statistics every year on the probability of competing at the NCAA level, and wrestling is always the lowest probability. This year it was 3%. It's usually right around, it's been like between 2.7 to 3% of when you take the number of high school participants in wrestling and compared to the number of collegiate wrestlers in Division I, Division II, Division III. And obviously there's terrific wrestling in the Ncaa and JUCO and some of those other things, but specifically Division I, Division II, Division III, it's usually a little bit less than 3%. So it's really I mean, you're talking pretty competitive level, not Division I like that, but I think at the Division III level, especially here at Platteville, there's a clear emphasis on like, you know, it's highly competitive wrestling, but there's more of that bigger picture approach of how this is playing a part in the grand scheme of your life, right? Like at Platteville here, like we have a stated mission where we're committed to the education of our men, and we are trying to use the sport of wrestling combined with their academic experience here to produce very well prepared and successful graduates. And so, and then what's cool is like, we're really seeing that come to fruition. And so when you say what sets Platteville apart, it's every coach is going to say, oh, you know, we want you to do well in life afterwards. Like what coach wouldn't want that for their guys, right? But what's amazing is that there's just a proven process to success here. And all of our guys graduate, but all of my guys have jobs in their field. And so like Zippia.com actually put out an article this summer that UW-Platteville is the #1 public college in the United States for getting a job after you graduate. I mean, I literally had a guy in my office yesterday that's a senior. He's graduating here in December. And I mean, he was like, we were chuckling because his name's Caleb Coleman, great kid. And you know, he had 3 different job offers. And so he got his pick of the offer, and the company like paying him a great salary with benefits. I mean, I said to Dan Olson, I said, yeah, he's probably making as much as we are combined, you know, first year right out of school. I don't know what he's making, but you know, good salary. He's telling me like, he was like this, like, I can't believe this. You know, he's talking about they give him a company truck and, you know, all these crazy benefits and stuff like that. And it's just like, and as goofy as it sounds, that's amazingly the norm here. Like when my guys are graduating and they're like, man, it's so fulfilling when these guys like, I always say like, guys, we're trying to build an amazing program. We're like, you know, we'd like to be one of the best teams in the country year in and year out in Division III. And we're working to do that. Right. But ultimately, if a guy would win a national title and then he like, you know, is floating by with a 2.2 GPA and kind of like, you know, goes and, you know, moves back into his parents' basement or something after, like, I would say like, dude, I failed you as your coach. Like, yeah, you won the title, but what's next? And so we're trying to get the best of both worlds. And I feel like, you know, there's a lot of great schools out there, amazing coaches and things, but at least, you know, I would say what I feel sets us apart is, you know, there's just a combination here of amazing academics. And then there's such a hands-on emphasis in our curriculum here. We're like about 70% of our roster, 75% of our roster each year is an engineering major.
Okay.
So some form of engineering.
Is that the known colleges there or?
Yeah, engineering's like going to be one of our most popular. We also have an agricultural program, which is pretty big, and we have, you know, education and criminal justice and business and some of those things. I just think like the hands-on aspect really sets our kids apart academically. They get some real experience, and there's an emphasis on internships and doing like co-ops and things, and that's played a big role in like basically, you know, you do an internship and it's like a summer-long job interview. And so those companies have just kept our guys on, like I would say 9 times out of 10, you know, they're the companies that they they internship with. They just tell them like, hey, you're doing a great job. We're really impressed with you. You know, if you just keep doing what you're doing and let us know and we'll have a position for you. And it's been, knock on wood, man, it's been really amazing. And so, you know, that's, I would say what sets us apart. It's like, man, it's honestly like, I mean, when I have recruits and their families here, I feel a little weird even talking about, because it's so crazy, like how well our job placement rates are. And these guys, these young, you know, they're 22, 23. These guys are, you know, buying houses here in town. And it's like, dude, when I was 22, I was like still trying to figure out life. You know, these guys are just, they're really succeeding in life. And So, again, that's, and there's a lot of schools that do that, but I just think it's something that I'm really proud of, and certainly makes my job like just really fulfilling when you see these guys going on, and wrestling plays a role in that, and
Right.
in who they are once they leave here. So it's just, that's really a big point of pride, is seeing my guys succeed in life.
No, that's awesome, because right, coming into college is a right biggest moment for most of these kids. I mean, it should be right, and then that next step is the next most pivotal point. Those two decisions right there, are setting them up for the rest of their life, and so that's pretty cool that that is the end goal, right? You're not going to college to
Yeah.
just wrestle. I'm horrible with geography, but like, where are you guys in Wisconsin? What's I guess what are those industries, and where are they getting those internships at?
So yeah, it's interesting. So we're located in the southwest corner of Wisconsin. So,
Okay.
we are, so if this is Wisconsin, kind of the shape of it, we're
Mhm.
like down here, and we keep going this way. We're about 20 minutes from Dubuque, Iowa,
Okay.
right around there. And so, but really the internships and the co-ops and stuff, they come from all over.
Cool.
We've got a lot of guys that are working with like John Deere Corporation,
Nice.
but they'll get placed all over the place. I mean, we've got a guy that's in doing a co-op right now up by Green Bay, which is 3 or 4 hours from here, and in Wisconsin Department of Transportation. It's just it's all over the place. And what's really cool is that something that Platteville does twice a year is we have a huge job fair here, and it's right on campus. And in a typical year, non-COVID year,
Right.
it's right in our field house, actually. And like we'll have over 300 employers come right to our campus. And again, it's built into our curriculum here. So they want to hire our students for their internships and stuff. So again, and we have all of our guys go. Like they do one in September and one in January. And we're pushing all of our guys to go, even our freshmen. It's like, hey man, like get a shirt and tie on, get a resume together. Like even though you're going to be kind of like, you're probably not getting hired, you have no resume experience, but like start getting comfortable with that experience, and getting resumes together and stuff. And our career services office here is terrific. That guy Caleb I was just telling you about, like he was saying, like he's used them so much, and they're so willing to help. Like he's had multiple offers for every internship that he's done. He's had to choose which company he wanted to work for, and I'm like, dude, that is not normal. Like that's really it's really a special thing. So yeah, we're pretty fortunate to have that set up here, and these companies come from all over to hire our graduates and send them up with internships. And I tell our guys too, like they're not just handing these out because you're there. Like you have to be a student athlete, not a dumb jock, right?
Yeah.
Like so, you got to make sure you're doing well in school. And I mean, there's some companies that they won't even look at your resume if you don't have a 3.0. And it's kind of, on one hand, it's kind of like, oh, they might be missing out on some guys to maybe, it's not like 3.0 is the magic number that you're just, amazing, but they have to kind of screen them out somewhere where they have kids applying all over. And so I always tell these guys, as a young college graduate, like with limited experience on your resume, like your GPA is going to be one of those legs to stand on. And it's not it's not so much like an indication of your intelligence, but rather your ability to get stuff done, right? And especially being a student athlete as a college wrestler.
Right.
Many times I've had so many people that say, oh man, we love hiring these wrestlers. And then if you're an academic All-American, and you can indicate that, yeah, I can successfully balance a lot of things. Like we say, good, a good wrestler can embrace the suck a little bit, as far as, they're going to be willing to grind it out at work. And there's going to be times in life when, this, I mean, man, we're grinding here this month, right? And you show up early and you're staying late and you're putting in hours. Like, I mean, that's wrestling, right? We work out in the morning, we go to school all day, we work out at night, and you're putting that time in. And if you can do that while you're also studying electrical engineering or engineering physics, and some of these guys are in these quantum physics and stuff, and it's just like, wow, man, this is amazing what you guys are doing. And so your capacity to succeed academically while you're also still training and managing your weights and watching video and getting ready to compete, it's outstanding. And so there's a reason too, where like a graduate from UW-Platteville, and especially like where we really try to value that stuff in our program. Like we feel like we're producing some really well prepared and successful graduates, through that whole process.
Nice. That's awesome. I mean, that's the piece, right? Like you said, it's nothing worse than you might be successful on the mat, and then what's next, if they don't have the tools and resources to succeed beyond the mat. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
One thing, shifting gears here, I know we talked, prior to recording, but the rule change, I know, pretty passionate about some rule changes and things like that. Let's get into that a little bit. You talked.
Well,
Go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say, like, and I know it's not a popular opinion, so I'm willing to accept that. I certainly know I'm wrong all the time, but so I could be wrong on this. But man, I think I hear people talking, and I listen to your podcast. Got some great officials on there and great guests and stuff, and like it always blows my mind. Like we have the NCAA rules survey that all the coaches and the officials fill out and stuff. And I've heard this for years too. Like Matt Sorchinski on your podcast had just said how the step out rule is like, that's not even close to being adopted as an NCAA rule.
Coaches, right?
Right. And years ago, I asked about this when Mark Branch from Wyoming was on the rules committee, and he was very transparent and stuff. He was really good about that. Just like following up, saying, "Hey, I'm baffled that this is not, you guys didn't accept that proposal." And he was like, "Coach, it wasn't even close." And I just feel like I clearly must be missing something, because when I watch, obviously I'm a wrestling junkie, but I watch a lot of freestyle, a lot of Greco, and I used to coach a lot of that stuff. And ever since they implemented the step out rule, it seems like the action on the edge of the mat has increased rather than decreased, which I hear that all the time. And I'm like, where are they getting that data from? Because I'm pretty sure the UWW, I like I said, I got to look this up a little bit more, or maybe reach out to them, but I'm pretty sure the UWW has seen an increase in scoring since they implemented that rule compared to where things were at years ago. You watch the action on the mat. And I think that a very important part of this, if we could ever get this through, and maybe I'm showing my cards here, but that's okay, is when I hear people refer to it as the push out rule, I think that sets a negative connotation in people's minds as far as what they're envisioning sumo and people driving people out of bounds. And
it's all the perspective, right?
Yeah, I think it might be just semantics, but if we would either refer to it as the step out rule, where you're going to surrender a point, or we utilize the language that we're already using in the NCAA, is the stay on the mat rule. And as the officials are calling it now, and there's so much subjectivity in that, and from match to match within a tournament, different officials. And I know we've got great guys, Tim Shields is awesome, our coordinator of officials, and he sends the message. But as well as I do, it's still up to the guy on the mat to make the call as stated. And there's so much, oh man, and I feel like it would simplify things for the athletes, most importantly, because that's who we're here to serve, right? Simplify it for the coaches, simplify it for the officials. Like,
right.
If he steps out of bounds, rather than them having to think like, let's see, should I call him for stalling or him? Or should I say action or whatever? Right. It's like, dude. And then the fans, so many people are like, wait, what? Like, we're confusing people with that. It is a simple concept to explain to somebody, like, oh, how come he gave up a point? Oh, he stepped out of bounds. Okay. Instead of, so I just think, stay on the mat rule would be a great way to implement that. And people always say like, oh, it's going to shrink the size of the mat. We love being able to wrestle out of bounds. Like, you could still do that as far as when they're grounded, right? I mean, that's part of freestyle is, when they're down, wrestling could still continue on the edge of the mat and out of bounds. It would just be when we're both on our feet, when we're in that neutral situation, the guy steps out of bounds. And you could actually improve upon the rule where if a guy, like, clearly, you see this sometimes where a guy just backs out of bounds and it's a clear stalling call, wouldn't he be less likely to just walk out of bounds if he got hit with stalling and one for the other guy consistently? Like, he would work his butt off to stay on the mat and circle in. And then as you see, you watch all kinds of wrestling too. It's like, when guys work their butt off to circle in, it actually creates action, which then creates more scoring, and it's exciting for people to watch. And so that's my perspective on that. I mean, I know it's way off base, and people are like, no, that's never going to happen. It seriously boggles my mind that that's not that hasn't been implemented yet, because, and I know we're not even close to doing it, but man, and I might just be, I mean, obviously I'm an Ncaa coach, so it's folk styles our thing, but I might just be a freestyle Greco guy. I don't know. It just seems like a no brainer to me.
Right. No, like I said, some people are saying, oh, it decrease action. I don't know. I'm not a college, coach. And I don't know. I guess I'm seeing both sides, but we talking off air, like I said, they have a test market, right? Usually, the all-star duel type thing to test these rules, excuse me. But I guess from another perspective we were chatting about is right now, right? We have college or folks out really close to the freestyle rules, right? But
Yeah.
Our high school rules are kind of almost becoming further apart from our college rules, which, if we can get the high school, college, and freestyle rules all on the same page, I think it only helps, right, that casual fan to understand it. Not someone tuning in. Oh, what's the freestyle? Oh, it's it's same as college, it's same as high school, and right
Yeah.
now the challenge with high school is right, these small gyms, right, they're never going to have that out of bounds college rule. Just out of there's not enough room in these gyms to have mats and have X amount of feet for out of bounds. So
Right.
I don't know. I think there's definitely enough buzz. I think there has to be, obviously maybe more education and perspective, like you're saying, call it the, instead of the push out, to step out and tell them the approach. And
Yeah.
they have a test market, right? Or at least, let's try it. And but I
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many years it's been in play now. It's probably been 10 years since it's been in freestyle. So we have, I'm sure the UWW has the data. Like, go back and look at 10 years before and 10 years after. Let's see, has scoring increased because of it? And with the high school stuff, man, I mean, I love wrestling, man. Sometimes that edge of the mat stuff in high school, it's just brutal, because there's kids that, could be scoring points if it was in college, it would be a takedown type of thing, but it's out of bounds, it's, man, that's brutal.
right.
And so so say like with the high school mat specifically, like the diameter of the circle, I mean, even again, if we implemented a stay on the mat rule, where if they went out of bounds and they give up a point, they'd probably stay in bounds a lot more, which then also would, the more the guys stay on the mat, probably the clock keeps running. There's less stoppages in the action, makes things a little shorter. So now, I mean, I know I might be really reaching here, but in terms of like shortening up the amount of time, we all have heard, like, man, who wants to sit in a gym all day with these marathon tournaments or whatever? Like, the more like manageable we can make this thing as far as shortening things up, and just making it easier for the casual fan. I mean, we were watching wrestling on Saturday night, and my wife who's really supportive and involved and sees a lot of wrestling, but even still, like, it's confusing to her the difference as we were watching freestyle on Saturday night and the flow card, and then watching college and some of that stuff, and it's just like, wait, what's going on there? And the more that we could bring, if we could bring at least some of this, I don't think we need to implement gut wrenches and stuff like that in folk style, but just some of the things, as far, especially that edge of the mat rule, to me it's a no-brainer, but I'm probably beating a dead horse here.
We'll see, right? We'll see.
Yeah,
So
we'll see.
we're talking about that, right? Taking what we have, the data, to kind of work with what we have. And I said we'll see before, but you brought up a kind of a little poem quote thing, which
Yeah.
I've never heard it, but
Okay.
it's it, man. I want to hear it again.
Yeah, I'll share it with any of the listeners. So this is, to me, this is a way of life, and it's a little bit of a, not to go too far down the rabbit hole, but like kind of a comes out of like stoicism. If you've ever read any of the books by Ryan Holiday, there's a great book out there called "The Obstacle Is the Way," and some of those things, ego is the enemy, and some stuff like that. And so it's kind of where the mindset comes out of, but it's like basically a way to kind of approach life, to not get too high with the highs, too low with the lows. So here it is. It's called "We'll See." And once upon a time, there was a farmer who didn't have a lot of money for equipment. So instead of a tractor, he used an old horse to plow his field. And one afternoon while working in the field, the horse dropped dead. Everyone in the village said, "Oh, what a horrible thing to happen." And the farmer said simply, "We'll see." He was so at peace and so calm that everyone in the village got together and, admiring his attitude, gave him a new horse as a gift. And everyone's reaction now was, "Oh, what a lucky man." And the farmer said, "We'll see." A couple days later, the new horse jumped a fence and ran away. And everyone in the village shook their heads and said, "Oh, you poor fellow." And the farmer smiled and said, "We'll see." And eventually the horse found his way home. And he even brought a wild horse back with him. And everyone said, "You fortunate man. Not only did your horse return, but now you have two horses." And the farmer said, "We'll see." Later in the year, the farmer's young boy tried to ride the wild horse and it bucked him off. He fell and broke his leg. And everyone in the village said, "Oh, what a shame for that poor boy to break his leg." And the farmer said, "We'll see." And 2 days later, the army came into the village to draft any able-bodied young man to serve in an ongoing war. When they saw that the farmer's son had a broken leg, they determined he was not fit to be drafted. And everyone said to the farmer, "How fortunate you are to not have your son drafted." And the farmer smiled again and said, "We'll see." And so obviously the moral of the story there is, let's not overreact to the events and the circumstances of our everyday lives. And many times what appears as a setback is actually can be kind of a gift in disguise. And I think if our mind and our heart is in the right place, then all those events and circumstances, they're all gifts, because we just don't know how it's going to shake out. So rather than get too high with the highs or too low with the lows, it's just kind of like, hey, we'll see.
Right.
Kind of one last point on that is I'll say is because especially nowadays, like it's like, oh, we're starting, oh, we're training, oh, this is canceled, or oh, this is no, there's a lot of ups and downs, right, in COVID world. And so for a couple of weeks there, I was getting a little bit ticked off, and I wasn't taking my own advice as far as we'll see. And I started to think like like I would be getting ticked off about something, and then the next day would be gone. It's just like, I got to take some of this own advice. And so my kind of rule of thumb has either been we'll see, or if it's not going to matter that much in 5 years, don't let it bother you more than 5 minutes.
Right.
Right. And when you get those 5 minutes, man, use your 5 minutes. If you want to get ticked off and pound your fist and kick the table or whatever, and as soon as you do that too, when you do get fired up like that, you kind of like think, what am I doing? Why am I getting so ticked off? I don't have control over this anyway. Right. It's just the world we're living in. And so, if you want to get fired up for 5 minutes and, kick and scream and throw a tantrum, whatever, throw it. Hey, man, that's your 5 minutes. Well, once that 5 minutes hits, dude, the timer goes off, boom, it's out, boom. You're moving forward. And, that's got to be kind of the way of life. So these days, it's like, hey, we'll see, man.
Right. No, 100%. It's funny because last night my wife was worked up about something. I was like, I understand you're frustrated, but you going to care Monday? She's like, no, but let me be pissed. So, So I kind of could sense. So you got two little ones, right? You're a good storyteller there. How you approach it, right?
Yeah, right? I got two young kids, man. So I got two girls, and I got one in kindergarten, one's 5 and one's 2, and got a terrific wife, very supportive. Understands, she was a college athlete, and so she understands kind of what it means to be a college coach for a career and kind of the time demands of that and stuff. But really fortunate to just I would say blessed with a loving wife and 2 great kids that are healthy, and a couple girls, and with women's wrestling growing, we'll see.
We'll see, right? No, I'm a girl dad also. They're not in wrestling, but they're involved in sport, so it's fun.
I think the women's wrestling stuff is that's been so great for our sports. And man, just the opportunity. And I know, with my 5-year-old starting to just we'll watch a little bit, and whenever we see some of the women on any of these different cards that are going on flow and track and all that stuff, it's like, it's awesome for her to be able to see that now, and that there's a clear path for them to go, and all these states are sanctioning at the high school level and stuff. It's really cool. It's great for our sport just to see, like, it's actually interesting. That's one thing I've thought, like, we got women's freestyle, and there's, and obviously, as it should be, there's there's been this push for equality in wrestling, and
Right.
I wonder how far are we off until are women going to wrestle Greco too?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
there's an equal opportunity. Why should they be limited to freestyle? I'm always kind of puzzled at that. Is just
That's a
maybe
good
just
point.
because, maybe in these whatever it's been since probably like, late 80s when they first started having world championships.
Mhm.
We're still not that far. So I wonder if like just the population isn't enough yet to,
Right.
it's one thing just to get all the girls wrestling freestyle.
Right.
So maybe 10 years from now, you and I will be talking and we'll be like, oh man, did you see that Greco match?
Yeah.
Your daughter's awesome in Greco, man.
Yeah.
That would be cool. Like if whatever they want to do. I know they could still wrestle Greco if they want to enter that,
Hmm.
but to have that girls
The
division,
girl
that'll be
field. Yeah.
something that I wonder if it'll kind of just continue to evolve from here, 10,
Yeah.
20, 30 years down the road, if that's, something that might be an avenue for them.
Right. Right. That I never thought of that angle. So what's Wisconsin's girl scene like? And I guess is there any talks with Wisconsin-Platteville starting a program, or I guess what's the whole
Um,
scene up there?
I actually I brought it up. Not our current administration. We have a new AD that just started last May,
Okay.
but our prior administration. I actually proposed it, and they just said, "Hey, we appreciate what you're doing, but we want to kind of focus on be able to provide enough resources for the programs that we do have right
Right.
now." But Wisconsin high school, they are set to have the girls and the boys are gonna they're going to train and compete kind of together through the regular season.
Oh, cool.
And then our state association is going to have a separate girls state tournament.
Okay.
And so that I think that's the first step in them kind of just really having a full on branch off there. And I know that Illinois also is getting ready for that. Once we get through COVID stuff, having their own high school state tournament and series like that. So I think it's growing. And so for a couple of girl dads like us, that's
Right.
a cool thing, just
For
to
sure.
see if they want to. I mean, like I
Hmm.
said, my wife was a college athlete,
What
and,
sport?
she played tennis in college, but
Oh,
she
cool.
was in soccer and basketball in high school and stuff. And I've often said like, hey, when we had girls, I was like, if you want to like get them in soccer, like
Hmm.
I'm happy to like just drive the minivan and get the orange slices and get the high C and all that stuff for the kids. Like if that's what you want to do, that I'm
Yeah.
cool with that. Let her coach them up.
Uh,
And but if they want to wrestle, like I would love to be involved with that too. It's just
mhm.
whatever they would want to do, I guess.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, it's yeah, girl wrestling, man. And here in Ohio, it's not
Is it
sanctioned.
taking off?
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, the coach association hosted the high school state last year, and first year for that, and the numbers more than doubled, and they're not going to sanction. It's not sanctioned this year through the state association, but I mean they're pushing real hard. There's some awesome momentum behind it, and it's just. I wasn't able to attend, but if you talk to any of the coaches that were there, they said it was just amazing. They had it in a high school setting, but it was done right, and it was from everyone I
That's
talked to,
awesome.
it was just done right, and the momentum's there. They're in Columbus and Southwest and Northeast Ohio. There's some big programs, 30, 40 girls on a team and stuff like that. So it's definitely it taken off, and it's exciting to see, because now
Yeah,
it's more eyeballs on the sport, and they're not getting turned away because they got to wrestle a boy every day, and it's pretty cool. So we'll see,
yeah, no,
right? We'll see.
that's great. Yeah, we'll see.
Right.
When I coached at Lakeland, I had actually proposed that they have a women's program there too
Okay.
at the time, and the administration at that time just said no, we're just not ready for it or whatever. And then thankfully, after I left, they started a women's
Oh,
program, and
cool.
they've seen some success there, and it's just been cool to see. I mean, they had a national champion and stuff, and so it's cool to put some visibility into that program. And I think that like you've heard a lot of coaches say like with Title IX and stuff, that's going to be one of our best ways to to keep men's wrestling
Hmm.
strong,
Right. Right.
is make sure we have a female counterpart and
Hmm.
provide that opportunity for the girls who are interested. And so yeah, I'm all for it, man. I'm all
That's
for it.
cool. So one other point we were talking, off air is the whole unique setup with the rally scoring, or that
Mm,
you've done at your camp in the past, and you've put it out there to coaches. But I guess fill our listeners in on that take and your approach with that.
Yeah, and this will be one of those things. I'm glad you waited till the end of the interview, because some guys might be like, "All right, that guy's crazy. I'm shutting this off." It's just something that we've done, and I talked about this on a track wrestling thing a couple of years ago. We're just kind of off the cuff talking with Kyle Klingman and that, but something that we did at a team camp years ago, and I've often thought about this, is like fixing our team scoring. Like when we do dual meets, I don't know exactly how it would work tournament wise, but just thinking about dual meet scoring, like a point scored in a match is a point earned for your team on the scoreboard, because it's so crazy that we don't give as much value, like and I understand you got to break things up a little bit, but like we don't really maximize the value of a guy going out and getting a tech fall. Like if he outscores his opponent by 15 points, he only gets 2 more team points than a guy that won 1-0. Right. Like he gets 3. It's like, so where's that incentive for guys to get after it other than just their motivation, but for the team? So if you think, hey, if I go out and I put the hammer on a guy and I beat him, 15-0, I score 15 points for my team. And we did that, like I said, at a team camp years ago. And I've played around with it over the years. And just a point scored is a point earned. And so the guys who had the ability to put the hammer down and score points would get after it. And they had to know too, if they decided to cut the guy, they would be giving up a point for their team, right? And we could tweak the rules where you could say like, if a guy clearly says like, hey, I'm just going to go both up, like maybe since he didn't earn that point, he would maybe get one, something like that. But like back in those days when I did this at that camp, we had a kid, like the worst kid on the team, was fighting the whole time to score and escape. And when he scored 1 point, all his teammates on the bench were all cheering for him, whatever, they're all fired up because he contributed to the team, right? And so as long as you don't get pinned, the only way that you wouldn't score is if you get pinned. Okay. So where does that provide incentive?
Right.
Don't get pinned, right? Yeah, and if you're the guy that gets pinned, the only way you can block them from scoring is to either shut them out completely or pin them. Right. And so there's an incentive to go for the fall. So it could be something like points scored in the match plus 6, 10, whatever that would be. However,
so pins. So how did you set up in the camp? Was a pin 20 points and the other person 0?
That's exactly right. Okay. You know what? Yep. Okay. We did 20 just because we were just experimenting with it.
Easy round
and
number.
Then again, so what's exciting when you go to a meet, right? Pinning's exciting. So guys are going to work to pin them, right? They're going to fight their butt off and they're going to take some more risk. And you get some of those kids out there that maybe they're getting outclassed, but they have kind of a puncher's chance to, they're never out of a match, right? And so guys are going to keep fighting to score points, number one. And the worst thing that's going to happen, they're trying to score. If they try to pin them, man, they can be like a total hero. Like envision that at a dual meet, right? Instead of a guy that, okay, you're down by 7 right now. Right. Instead of trying to shut it down, oh shoot, don't give up the major for my team. I'm going to keep trying to score points, man. I'm going to try to pin this guy and envision how nuts the crowd would go. Well, like what happens now, you're down by 7 and you get a pin, right?
Right.
Like, holy cow, can you believe that? Right. So not only were you getting your butt kicked, but you actually blocked that guy from scoring and you scored X number of points for your team, right?
Right.
So it could add to that. So, and I don't have it all figured out, but I've played around with it. And again, I found that it increases the scoring, but more importantly, it increases the constant wrestling. Right. If you're ahead, you try to build your lead. The things that every coach preaches, hey dude, keep scoring, build your lead, right? Get after him, keep pouring it on him. Or if you're way behind, hey dude, just keep fighting, stay in there, man, keep fighting. Right. Well, now it's like, yeah, actually there's a reason. If you keep fighting, like even if you just are able to shut him down from scoring, you are helping your team, right?
Right.
If you can hold their best guy, if you can hold him to oh man, he only lost by 3 or whatever, like that happens now, but you would have to actually really wrestle to make that happen. And there'd be so much strategy involved in that process where it's a lot of fun. And I just think of it like there's not as much incentive in a dual meet right now. Like, okay, so if you got a couple heavyweights out there and they have this barn burner match that's 1-0, well, like as wrestling junkies, we can kind of watch it and be like, yeah, it was it was a heavyweight match. It was 1-0, it was triple overtime. Like, I kind of dozed off there for a minute too. But at the same time, it's like you got some 33s and 41s that are out there and they're scrapping and attacking, counterattacking, whatever. And all of a sudden, like maybe a guy works his butt off and he beats somebody 10-2, right? So he puts points on the board, which is exciting for fans to watch. Well, in that process, he got one more team point for all that action and activity compared to the guy that won 1-0, on riding time. It was like, boy. So, you can score 10 points for your team or you can score 4. And at what point does I know not to use a dirty word like basketball on your podcast here, but
You're good.
At what point does a guy score, he gets 25 points in a basketball game and they're like, cool, we'll give you 6. That doesn't happen, right? That just doesn't happen. It's like, let's reward people for scoring points and getting after it. And so, and I've had we've kind of had some discussion on this with other coaches and they're like, well, I think, it take away from the team because you could have, a couple of the David Taylor type guys who go out and they, and it maybe like overvalues them for their team. And it's like, no, actually, I think it shows their real value. Like that's why there are those NBA superstars, right? And so why are we trying to, as a sport, say like, well, we don't want him to score all the points for the team, right? Like,
good point.
Let's only give him 6 for going out and why are we, like, imagine being on ESPN and somebody said like, did you see Opfer scoring points last night? Holy cow, let's take a look at the highlights here. Here's this takedown and that takedown, and then he hit this and that. And man, and he scored 24 points in that match. That was amazing, right?
Right.
I mean, man. So
even
that's
from a
just
youth angle too. You had a duel, but if you're at the youth level, right? And now you got this score of 120 to 110. How cool is that? That, what I mean? The team atmosphere from a youth perspective. All right, every kid's contributing instead of don't get pinned. Don't get pinned.
Hey, score a point, man. Score a point. You help the team, right?
Right.
You keep fighting to score points. If dude, all of a sudden you scored a takedown, right? Like, I mean, man, you get a way to contribute to the team, and then your best guys get to really contribute to the team. And I mean, it's just something fun to think about. I know it'll probably never happen at the high school level or the NCAA level, but I mean, that's kind of what we're doing on here is just kind of,
if you're doing
brainstorming
that at camp, let me know. I live stream it, man. People, I'm sure.
Yeah. You know what? That's something, we were set to have the ISI camp here at UW-Platteville last summer, and unfortunately had to cancel that. But that's a very large camp, number of kids, and all kinds of dual meets and stuff. So that might be just a really great test event. Just even if it's, hey, one day we're just going to play around with this idea and see what happens. Just one day of the duels and see how it goes. Just something that could be fun and just just giving people a different perspective. I think that. I love wrestling and I love the traditional values of it and things, but things can change too. We can continue to adapt and evolve a little bit in the best interest of the sport. And you hear a lot of people always talking about trying to grow the fan base and get more eyes, and we're never going to be on. Well, we might be, and it's see what happens.
Yeah, that'd be a good camp. That camp's huge. I know Josh was Barbarian Apparel has been involved with them for a few years. He just says how big that camp is, and so good luck. You guys gonna host next summer then? All
well,
clear,
we'll see.
if all clear.
I mean, we'd certainly like to have them here. I mean, we had over 500 kids registered last spring, and unfortunately had to pull the plug on it. And that was like in March. We had that many kids registered, and they had told us that was like the most they had ever had at that point in their pre-registration. So we'd certainly love to have them here. We have, we're very fortunate. We have very nice facilities, and we have the space. And so we'd love to have all those kids on our campus. Obviously it'd be a great opportunity for us to have that many kids on our campus to just to see UW-Platteville and experience our our campus and our community and on our wrestling program and stuff. So we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Cool. Well, anything else you have you want to share, ask, tell, or anything? I know we've been
No, I
talking
don't
for a
think so,
minute
man.
here.
I just I really appreciate what you're doing at this podcast. I love listening to all the different things that are out there these days. That's really cool. Like the way technology has just
Right.
continued to positively influence us, and it can be a bad thing too if you get too far down the rabbit hole. But like just being able to listen to all these interviews, and I love listening to them all. Like all the different champions and great coaches that are out there. But one thing I really love about your podcast is that you really mix up the guests with the high school coaches and the officials and the D3 and the D1s. Like, I love listening to like those Cleveland State coaches were terrific, and some of those interviews. The D1 coaches are awesome, and we can all learn from those guys. But have to remember that like some of the best coaches out there are the high school coaches. You look at we've seen this pointed out with guys like Scott Goodale at Rutgers was a successful high school coach, and Kevin Dresser over the years back in his days when he was high school coach in Virginia and some of that. And like, there's a lot of those guys out there that have a ton to offer. So the fact that you bring on people with different perspectives like that from a wide range, I think you're really adding a lot of value to the wrestling community with this podcast, and I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks. That's it's been fun. It's definitely allowing me to learn, what, coaching perspectives are out there, and, myself, on and off, the mat. So it's been fun, and hope it continues, and I plan on it 'cause I'm having fun. So
Yeah.
I love hearing your story. Where can they find, more information about you or the school?
So certainly just Google UW-Platteville Wrestling, and we're on
Okay.
all the social,
Okay.
on Instagram, and we try to have a enough of a social media presence. A big part of our program too, like the guys who tend to thrive in our program are just with our location. We're kind of we're not in the sticks by any means, but there's just a lot of hunting and fishing and stuff
Oh,
goes
cool.
on. And so like,
Cool.
I mean, more recently, one of our guys had just took out a large buck with his bow, and so we got him on the
Nice.
Instagram. He's carrying the thing on his back, and we
Nice.
call that cross training here at Platteville when you're dragging a deer out of the woods. It's that type of
Awesome.
stuff. So it's not just like stats and stuff that you could just find on our university website. Just through our social media, UW-Platteville Pioneer Wrestling. Check that out, and if you got any kids that are interested in engineering or ag or criminal justice, business, any of those programs, we'd love to have them reach out and check out UW Platteville.
All right. Well, thanks, Coach, for your time. I appreciate it.
You bet, man. Thanks a lot.